Hello, have you ever wondered if my child with OCD understands intellectually that their obsessions and compulsions are irrational, then why do they have such a hard time giving it up? Well, I've spoken with many young adults diagnosed with OCD. I'd like to share with you 5 big messages that I heard. I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner, your host. I share my experience as the mother of a son diagnosed with OCD when he was in college, a physician, and a life coach with about 2 decades of experience helping my clients get what they want. Let me ask you a question. How well do you understand what day-to-day life is like for your child learning how to manage obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD? There are some things that might get in your way. I'd like to talk about those things first, and then I'd like to share with you 5 messages that I synthesized from conversations that I've had with young adults who were diagnosed with OCD. Well, let's begin with the question, why is it that you as a parent might be listening to this podcast? Why do you not already know what life is like for your son or daughter? And a big part of this is just the nature of OCD. OCD is shrouded in secrecy. So pulling back the veil and seeing what's actually going on is a very important first step. So especially if you are helping your child who has car keys and credit cards, age 17 and above, there are some specific reasons that it might be so challenging for you. So let's go through those first. You might spend less time with your child. When your child gets to be this age, they might be off at college, they might be living on their own, so you don't have the physical proximity to pick up on those little tiny cues that feed your parenting intuition. Next, your child is at the time when they're longing for autonomy. Their task in this developmental stage is to break free from you. So they might interpret your questioning as micromanaging. Next, there is just the secrecy of OCD. Your child is probably smart. They have insight. They recognize that on some level this is irrational behavior. They know that their obsessive thoughts are not true on some level. They know that their compulsions don't make sense. And it's pretty embarrassing. So a lot of people with OCD go to great lengths to hide their symptoms. This secrecy leads way to shame, which then feeds the secrecy, and now you've got a vicious cycle going. I will also point out that when your child gets to be 18, they have the legal right to privacy. So if they're off at college and you might want to know, okay, what are things really like for them? And you contact the college, you will be told, sorry, they can't tell you, their hands are tied. Then there is your child's quest for safety. So remember, OCD has a theme that goes through it. It's all about the longing to be safe. And if they share part of what's going on with them with somebody who judges them or blames them or casts accusations, they're just not going to put themselves in danger. They're just not going to talk with those people anymore. And it's really heartbreaking for me to see how many children exclude their parents from their support circles simply because their parents have had a hard time hearing the truth about what OCD is really doing to their lives. Then there's the challenge of finding help. I hate to admit this as a physician myself, but very often healthcare professionals do not get specific training in the diagnosis or treatment of OCD. And a lot of the treatment is counterintuitive. Unless you've got specific training, this person might not be able to help you. They might not be able to help your child. So it's often years before kids get a diagnosis, and then even more years before effective treatment is started. And after a bunch of years of disappointments from healthcare professionals, your kid just might not be interested in trying somebody new. But I hope they do, because there's always hope with OCD. As a parent, you want to do everything in your power to help your child get to the other side of OCD and evolve into the best version of themselves. And what you do matters. So here you'll learn some tools of OCD power parents, the parents who tap into their parenting superpower to really do the things that will facilitate this bridge for your child to the future that you see for them. And it all begins with understanding your child. So again, here are 5 messages that kids with car keys and credit cards and a diagnosis of OCD have shared with me. Your child might have told you similar things. Your child, though, might have embarrassment and shame, and they might find it very, very difficult to reach out. One thing that a young woman told me that really hit me, she said, "I am in the battle for my life." OCD is caused by a brain wiring glitch in which the brain offers up to your child's conscious mind thoughts and images that elicit high levels of discomfort. And because of this glitch, it makes it difficult for your child to get rid of these thoughts, to shift gears and think about something else. Now, these thoughts often have something to do with literal life and death. So they feel like if they don't do something, somebody dear to them might die. Something terrible, terrible might happen to them. Imagine that you're on an airplane and without any warning from the pilot, you hit a patch of turbulence and you drop and nobody has warned you. Imagine how you would feel if you were at a concert and you heard a gunshot go off. Imagine that you were awakened by a noise and you saw a masked man standing at the foot of your bed. This is how your kids spend most of the day. They look around the world and they see threats everywhere. And so they spend a lot of their days in this kind of fight or flight. So anatomically and functionally, there are 3 parts of the brain. There's the thinking brain. So your child's thinking brain knows that these obsessive thoughts are irrational. Then there is the feeling brain. So that's the part of your child's brain that experiences the high levels of anxiety when they think these obsessive thoughts. And then there's the reptile brain. That is the part of the brain that's kept our species alive. So it was formed to help us face a saber-toothed tiger. We have these networks that will help us either flee, fight, freeze, or fawn, make friends with the saber-toothed tiger. Our kids spend a lot of their days in that kind of life and death loop. So this can be very, very exhausting for our child. Another way of thinking about it is, has your child ever been bullied? Maybe it's a bully at school, or maybe it's a cyberbully. Well, with OCD, it's like they have a bully inside of their head. They're with the child 24/7. And unlike the bully in the playground, the OCD bully understands how your child's mind works, where the vulnerabilities are, so it knows exactly where to poke in order to maintain power over your child's life. One person told me that they get anxiety that makes their skin crawl. Another person told me, going through one of these episodes is kind of like having a heart attack for 2 hours. After one of these episodes, I can be completely wiped out and I might have to sleep for hours. So no matter how strong your child is, OCD is stronger. So as an action step, I invite you to just sit down and have a conversation with your child. Ask, what's it like being you? Just suspend judgment and listen empathically, without feeling the need to fix anything or offer any solutions. Just be there to listen. All right, the second message that I've gotten from young adults with OCD is that they've got a really, really hard job. So think of OCD as a two-headed monster that lives in your child's brain. Now, I know that there's not physically a monster there. One head is labeled obsessions, the other head is labeled anxiety. What OCD tries to do is hijack the machinery of your child's brain in service to them. So it's sort of, I can see this two-headed monster holding a little bird cage, and your child is locked in this bird cage. The other side of OCD, where we want to get with treatment, is for your child to be outside of the cage, holding this two-headed monster in the locked cage, so that your child gets in the driver's seat of their life. They're in control of their OCD rather than their OCD being in charge of them. Okay, what do you do to get from the dark side of OCD to the other side of OCD? Well, it is really, really hard. We are expecting our kids to witness their thoughts. So it's sort of like they project themselves into a corner of the room and watch the thoughts that go through their brain. They are to distinguish between a thought from their healthy brain, which, by the way, also lies to us, and the OCD brain, which virtually always offers lies. Then, even if they know a lie is a lie, they're going to have very high levels of anxiety, and we're asking them to lean into the anxiety. Then, we're asking them to resist the urge to do these compulsions that they know will bring their anxiety back down to baseline. And all of these things are hard to do. And remember, our kids' brains are not fully developed until they're about 26. So let me just put this in a context that might hit home for you. So let's say that you have decided that, you know what, I want to do without sugar. Sugar incites the inflammatory response in my body. I just want to live healthier, so I'm going to give it up. How easy would it be to say no to your favorite ice cream sundae? How easy would it be for you to willingly dive into circumstances where you know that you're going to feel very uncomfortable? What if, for example, you've been asked to give a talk at work, and this just creates dread in you? Would you willingly sign up to give that talk? Or would you do everything in your power to avoid discomfort? Well, we are asking our kids to dive into their own discomfort. And when was the last time that you changed a habit? So I'm working on my next book, and I'm just not making the kind of progress that I want. And the reality is that I'm watching an awful lot of TV. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna not watch TV anymore. And so when it came time for Jeopardy, I would just look longingly over at my black TV, just wishing that I could go in there and watch it. Do you carry any guilt that you might have caused your child's OCD? Well, there is absolutely no evidence in the medical literature that anything that you have done caused your child to have OCD. We want to hang on to thoughts that are going to help us. And the truth is that your guilt is not going to help you be a better parent in any way. Yet, how hard would it be for you to release that thought, like we're asking our kids to release their thoughts created by the obsessive brain? So I think that you will see that this is really, really hard work. And our kids engage in acts of courage every single day, that they work hard to manage their OCD. What I invite you to do is just sit down and have your child take you through one of these OCD loops. Like, when do they get these obsessive thoughts? Do they fight the thought? Do they try to resist urges? What's it like when they actually do their things that they do, the compulsions to get their anxiety back down to normal? Find out, how many hours do you lose each day to your obsessions and your compulsions? Explore what they've given up to appease this OCD monster. All right, a third theme that I've heard from young adults with OCD is see me, not the OCD. So you might find your focus drawn to the chaos that OCD creates for your child, for your family, for yourself. It's very, very easy to keep a running tally of all the ways your child's life is going wrong. You might assume the role of OCD thought police, constantly surveilling the environment for new ways that OCD is popping up. You might feel like you're walking on eggshells, trying not to elicit, one of these OCD storms. You might find yourself nagging your child about, have you called the therapist? Have you done this? Have you done that? You might observe your child's compulsions and just wanted to yell, just stop. Maybe you've even yelled that. When you are looking for problems, you will find them. They will grow. However, let me remind you that you have an absolutely amazing child. They've got determination and grit and perseverance. They don't wake up one morning and say, hey, I'd love to have a vacation day from OCD and just take the day off. They are in there doing the job every single day. Now, this is in service to the OCD monster. But imagine when they are in control of this OCD monster and they can redeploy all of these amazing qualities to serving something that's important to them. Imagine what they can do with their adult lives. You, as the family leader, can help your child get there. So I love Stephen Covey's definition of leadership. He says that leadership is communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly that they come to see it in themselves. So you can be the person reminding your child of all of the wins that they've made along the way, how far that they've come, and express your confidence about what their life can be like once they have slain the OCD monster. So instead of focusing on the negative things, how about finding ways to connect with your child in joy? Do things that you love to do together. Maybe it's going out for a bike ride or baking together. You can even bake together over Zoom. You can revisit their hopes and dreams. You can talk about things that they just love talking about. You can remind your child of their gifts. They might push back, but my own son tells me that he's listening to me even when he pretends that he's not. And then regularly celebrate those wins. Here is the fourth thing that I have heard from adult children with OCD. They say their parents are the most important people in their life. The truth is, no matter how old you are, you never outgrow longing for a parent's unconditional love. You might well be the most powerful force for healing in your child's life as they're learning to manage OCD. So you might wear a number of hats. You might be your kid's coach. You might be their cheerleader. You might be their provider, giving them resources. You might be their soft landing spot when the inevitable backslides happen. So you might find yourself stepping into each of these roles as your child is learning how to manage their brain and take control of OCD. I am not saying that you should be your child's physician or therapist, even if you are a physician or therapist yourself. Why is that? Well, you are the only person who can step into this parenting role. That is the most important place for you to be. It breaks my heart when I hear young adults say, I made the conscious choice to exclude my parents from my life. It just got too hard. And they told me some of the reasons. They told me that their parents didn't understand OCD. They interpreted it as some kind of character flaw or moral failing, and they didn't try to educate themselves. These young adults told me, look, it's hard enough battling OCD. I don't want to battle my parents simultaneously. It was just easier to exclude them. Others told me that they placed some distance between themselves and their parents because their parents had such a hard time with OCD. So they felt like they had to take care of their parents as well as themselves. And that was just too much. And I think that you've probably seen this happen. Have you ever had a loss and somebody comes to give you a condolence and suddenly you're taking care of this mourner because they're having such a hard time dealing with the death themselves? So yes, seeing our children in pain is probably the hardest thing that we will ever do as parents. And we can learn to deal with this. Now, no parent is perfect. I myself have gone to my son and apologized for things that I've said and done, either because I didn't know better or I just lost it. And you know what he said to me? He said, I forgive you. I understand how hard this is. So no matter what has happened in your past, remember that we never lose this longing for the parent who offers us unconditional love. You can step into those shoes. So what can you do? Well, you might want to have a conversation with your child at some relaxed time and start with, thank you so much for helping me understand what it's like for you to live with OCD. Now, I want to be here for you no matter what. Then say, listen, OCD is new for me and I want to rise to the challenge. Can you share with me some things that I've done that are helpful, that I should continue doing, and things that are not helpful that I should give up? And then, of course, you want to remind your child, I have every confidence that you have what it takes to get to the other side of OCD. I just want to help you get there faster. This fifth message comes from my own son. One day he told me, look, I'm going to do OCD my own way. Let me make my own choices and my own mistakes. Now, is there anything harder than witnessing your child in pain? Every part of you might fight against the reality that OCD has created. Every fiber of your being might want to be thrown into fixing things. But you cannot fix this. Managing OCD falls squarely on the shoulders of your child. They're going to have their way of doing it. They're going to do it at their own pace. Remember, this is very hard work. If you want to create a new outcome, maybe it's losing weight or becoming more fit or getting that book done, there are some days that you feel like you have more strength than others. So this is their journey. They will do it at their own rate. And what does a power parent do? They abandon this longing to fix, and instead they connect with their child. They let their child know, you are not alone in this. I am here no matter what. So the skill of learning to just sit with somebody in pain is a very challenging skill, but it's probably the most important thing that you can do. Yes, there is pain associated with OCD, but suffering is optional. And the way to avoid suffering is to have this human connection, to let your child know, no, you are not alone. I am here and I will be at your side no matter what. So, yes, your child will make mistakes. You make mistakes too. You can live through that. Yes, your in-laws might tell you all the things that you are doing wrong and why aren't you there just putting your kid in the car and taking them to the therapist. You can live with their thoughts too, with this firm idea about the kind of parent that you want to be. You might have members of online OCD support groups say really unhelpful things. You can live through that too. So you can make the biggest difference in your child's life by modeling the changes that you want them to see. Yes, it's uncomfortable to watch your child be in pain. We're asking our child to step into the discomfort of their anxiety. If we're expecting them to do that, we can certainly, as adults, learn the skills to step into our own discomfort. We can decide what we're going to do with our thoughts, that I should be here fixing things. We don't have to listen to that thought. We can replace it with the thought, I am being an OCD power parent by just being here, and that I have faith that they have everything that they need to get to the other side of OCD. How can we ask our kids to up-level their mind management if we're unwilling to up-level our parenting? You can do this to help your child get to the other side of OCD. There's a possible future in which your child's obsessive thoughts are like nothing more than the buzzing of mosquitoes. They're annoying, but they don't get in the way of your plans. To help your child get to the other side of OCD, you can be the change that you want to see in your child. So as an action step here, notice how often you accept the reality that, yep, this is what we're dealing with right now, and whatever it is, I can be here. I can sit with it. We can get through this. Notice how often you resist your reality and you just want to fix it. You just want to make things different. Notice how often you show up as the kind of parent that you want to be, and notice the kinds of things that take you off course. Notice how often you understand that where your child is at right now is about them and not about you as a parent. My son told me that he is in charge of managing OCD. So is your child. So let me know, did you find this helpful? Are there other messages that your child has offered to you that you might want to share with the community? Well, thanks so much for stopping by and investing your time. I hope that you found value in it. Please feel welcome to share this with your child who's learning to manage OCD. This might be a great starting point for some conversations with them. Share it with your partner or other people who are there to support your child. Please feel welcome to leave any comments below, any thoughts that you or your child might want to share. You can be an OCD power parent and help facilitate this transformation of your child so they get to the other side of OCD. Thanks again. See you in the next episode.